Welcome to another episode of Uncommon Sense. This time around, we go with a lawyer, a crime lawyer at that. Chaitanya Kotnis in our studio. So, Chaitanya is a crime lawyer with the Bombay High Court. He has cut his teeth through the smaller courts of Maharashtra and where most of these cases are going to be represented. Over to Chaitanya. Welcome, Chaitanya, to the podcast.
Thank you, Vivek.
So, Chaitanya, to start off with, uh, let's go a little light into the topic. What other documents is one required to carry while on a motor vehicle, especially a motorcycle?
Okay, so in respect of the documents which are required to be kept with you is the main is the driving license, which is the
Yes.
basic document, then the PUC, then the registration of the car. These are three vital documents which are absolutely necessary when you travel.
Okay.
So those can be kept in a physical form or in a soft copy form, where
Okay.
nowadays there is a facility of a DigiLocker where you can store all these
That's right.
documents, and those are legally valid even if demanded by any traffic constable or any RTO officer. Those documents can be presented. They have a right to demand, and you can just place it before them.
So, when there's a demand, the law says that these documents should be produced to the
Yes.
officer.
Yes.
So, does produce means only show, or am I liable to hand over this document to the concerned
No.
authority?
So it is, they can just have a look at it and then they can return it back to you. It is
Okay.
not legally, they are not legally bound to actually keep those documents with them.
Okay.
They can demand to have a look at the documents, the validity of those documents, and then return those documents back to you.
Okay. So, if it is in the physical format, can he confiscate the document, or can he issue you a receipt saying that this has been confiscated for the crime that you are deemed to have committed?
Okay. In earlier, like say around 20 years back,
Correct.
there was a procedure where if you bounce a signal, they used to keep your license, then they
Right.
used to give you a receipt, and they used
Correct.
to tell that you have to come after a few days to the concerned police
Yes.
station, pay the fine, and then get your license collected.
Right.
But now the procedure is different. Everyone knows nowadays the police are just clicking pictures around the
Right.
whole city, and then automatically the fine is charged on the app. On your
Right.
registered mobile number, you get a SMS,
Right.
and those things are recorded in a electronic format.
Right.
So to answer your question, they don't nowadays keep any of the documents with them, because if they confiscate anything, they have to give you a challan or a seizure memo,
Okay.
which is required to be given. So
Okay.
therefore they don't seize any of this unless and until there is a crime which has been there, which has happened on the road. Then it's something different, but that will depend on the gravity of the offense which has happened.
So, not for jumping signals or cutting lanes.
Absolutely not.
Now, unfortunately, it turns out that is not happening anymore in the city, because we are seeing rampant signal breaking and people driving on the
Absolutely.
opposite side of the road.
Absolutely.
So, coming back to the point, as I understand, when you pay a fine, it's compounding of the offense, which means you are agreeing that I have committed that offense and I am ready to pay a penalty in order to be let off with a slap on the wrist. Am I correct?
To that extent, we can say yes, but not necessarily saying that it has to be compounded. It's just a fine for something, a small rule which you have broken.
Okay.
It's a fine for that. So it's
Okay.
not actually held as a offense which you have committed against someone. It's
Okay.
just a rule which you have broken.
Okay.
It's not that what you have broken is the law. It's a rule
Okay.
which you have broken. So
So
there's a
could
different.
you just emphasize a little more on breaking the law and breaking a rule?
Yeah. So a rule, there are multiple rules which have been coming up. So there's a notification which the government keeps on. There's a traffic department who keeps on giving notifications saying that this particular road now there is alternate parking on the roads.
Right.
However, some of the notifications don't reach to the common public.
Right.
They are not aware of it.
Right.
So there are boards which have been placed now.
Right.
Some people still park the car over there.
Okay.
So it's not about breaking the law. It's about you are not aware at that point of time, but still you have parked a car and therefore you have been charged for that.
Okay.
So in respect of that, then that's a rule which you have broken.
Okay.
It's not the law. Law is in respect of a particular thing when an accident takes place. If someone
Okay.
is hurt,
Okay.
if there is some mishap and unfortunately some person passes away, then it is something different for which you have been charged, and then you will be taken to the court for that.
Okay. So breaking a rule, you need not be taken to the court.
Need not be taken to the court. There are few things which are falling in the exceptions, but that's a long list which will follow. For just to give you an example, it's like nowadays drink and drive. It's
Right.
also an offense under the law.
Okay.
So for that you can be taken to the court.
Okay.
That is what it is.
So in the physical format and in the digital format, when you get a fine on the app, on the Mumbai Police app, sometimes let's assume you are not in agreement to the fine that has been charged. Let's
Yes.
assume, say, it's the wrong vehicle, or the number is wrong, or the vehicle is wrong,
Yes.
or it is not you. Maybe there's not enough evidence. So in person, if this happens, or on the app if this happens, how can you refute it?
Okay, so the department has now launched that app which is there, that motor vehicles,
Yes.
that app which is there. That app also has a particular section called as grievance. You can raise a
Right.
grievance over
Right.
there. You can just go in that. There are multiple options which are there, and you can give a descriptive narration of what exactly was not proper and
Right.
how you have been inappropriately charged. So you
Okay.
can give a brief description. They do a scrutiny of all those things, and they provide you with a solution.
Okay.
Either they will accept it or they will dismiss your
Okay.
claim, and on that basis it has been decided. So that is now what the prevailing rules as of now are.
Okay. And if the same thing, a police officer stops you on the road for breaking a signal or breaking some rule, as you said, and you are very sure that you haven't broken it, and at that point the police inspector, he has stopped you, he's clicking a picture of your stopped vehicle with you where there is no evidence that he is taking, right, in terms of a picture. So over there, how does it go?
So nowadays there have been CCTV cameras which have been installed on the multiple signals. Those CCTV cameras that you can ask under the Right to Information Act.
Okay.
So that CCTV footage also can be called for
Okay.
from the department. If you are very sure that you are not on the wrong side of it,
Okay.
you can definitely ask for that.
Okay.
And you can try to explain to the officer also.
Okay.
I have seen that the officers nowadays have become considerate
Yes.
towards all these things, because even they are aware that the CCTV camera is there. So inappropriately charging anyone or stopping anyone for that reason, it has, I won't say that it has stopped, but I am very certain that it has reduced to that extent. That is what my personal experience is.
Okay. So I understand the police should be clicking pictures through the handheld device that have been given.
Yes.
But more often than not, you see so many posts on social media where the police have clicked a picture on their cell phone and then they are clicking a picture from that device off their cell phone. So is that valid, not valid?
So a recent notification from the department says that clicking pictures from any other device other than the device which they have been given is not permissible.
Okay.
However, still the things are happening which we see on social media, and I'm sure that the department and the government is likely looking into all these things, and
Okay.
they might be improving. But the fact remains that even if it is clicked on a mobile phone, it's still a digital evidence which is there with them.
Right.
Probably there are chances where no one is talking about is that the machines which they have been given are not efficient enough and
lower
they are not,
megapixel
yes.
and
So probably that is one of the reasons that things are not happening the way they should happen. But I'm very certain that things will be improving in near future.
can any other government officer other than a police or an RTO ask you for your vehicle documents?
No, it's legally not permissible.
Okay.
There have been incidents which have happened like this, that the people in tier 2, tier 3 cities,
Yes.
have been stopping people and demanding under the pretext that they are police officers.
Right.
Things are happening, but it's not permissible. However, just to safeguard, nowadays the cars or the motorbikes have dash cams.
Right.
So using that or recording all these things over your own device, and then if something goes wrong, that could come to your aid. That would be
Okay.
one of the
So it is
important
allowed if I'm speaking with any government officer, any claimed government officer, I can record my
Yes, absolutely.
speech with him.
I would suggest that if a person claims to be a police officer or any other person from an RTO department, a person can be humble to him and record all those things discreetly after informing him that I am recording this particular aspect just to keep both the sides safe,
Okay.
not to actually create some mishap over it, but just to keep all the both the sides safe, so that avoid any other further litigations, further problems into this. Just to avoid that, you can make an informed decision and record it.
So,
That's
do
all.
you think speaking politely helps, or is that taken as a form of weakness?
So I like to believe speaking politely to a police officer definitely helps. The only thing is that you have to make an informed decision, or rather, it's always better to make it public. If there is a crowd which is there, it's always better to be around that particular crowd
Okay.
and actually speaking to a police officer or any other RTO officer department, because there are some police officers who, under the pretext that they are claiming to be police officers, they would be just harass for the purpose of
Correct.
harassing you. They might be just doing this
Okay.
just to stop your vehicle or something of that sort. That
So, if you see at times there are nakabandis at night, they might be having a relevant purpose, but however, the people who are stopped are generally asked for their license, their RC, and their PUCs. Uh, A, is that the actual reason for a nakabandi to check vehicle documents, and B, if there is some argument or small matter, and if a police officer or a constable says that I am going to confiscate your license or impound your vehicle, is that actually possible? And if yes, then what is the procedure for the officer, relevant officer, to do that?
So first of all, in respect of a nakabandi, where there have been barricades put on the road,
Yes.
I personally believe that it is done for the common public. So
Okay.
I don't think there should be any person who would crib over that particular issue, that why there is nakabandi. First of all, that is first foremost reason is that it is for a drink and drive purpose. So
Right.
the main nakabandi usually is that someone is driving when he is drunk. So just to curtail that, that is one reason. Secondly, there are matters which are relating to public safety, for which nakabandi is there, where the department takes an informed decision of placing that nakabandi at that particular place. If someone at that point of time starts arguing over any issue, the right of the police officer, yes, he can claim those documents from the person to have a look. Again, as I said, confiscating those particular documents are not going to be of any use. If the documents are not valid, he is free to charge him for that
Yes.
particular thing. If the vehicle is required to be confiscated, then it is not legal for any officer to confiscate any vehicle without giving the person any proper document for that particular purpose, either a challan or a seizure memo that we are confiscating this particular vehicle for these particular reasons. And then there is a whole lot of procedure where the person has been informed that this will be taken to some local police station where that particular nakabandi is, and then there is a procedure that how you have to get your vehicle released from there. So either it can be by paying charge or for any other reason for what it is
Right.
confiscated. So that is what it is there. But the only thing is that no person should actually leave their car at a nakabandi or with any other police officer just because he demands it,
Okay.
because that is not legal for
Okay.
any police officer to demand a motor vehicle without giving any proper documentation to the person
Okay.
who is driving or who is the owner of that particular vehicle.
Okay. The reason I ask is sometimes on a traffic signal, you see that as soon as you're stopped, you're pulled aside, and sometimes the police officer, sometimes even a traffic warden, who is actually not a authorized government employee, but more of a how should I put it, a contractual employee hired by the local police department, he tries to remove your key. So, is that also not legal?
No, so the traffic warden is completely a different aspect to what the police department actually does, or traffic police department does. So traffic warden doesn't have all those powers as a police traffic police
Police,
constable has.
yes.
So a traffic police constable, when they stop you, is for a particular reason where
Yes.
they'll place those reasons in front of you, and then they will do whatever is required. If you have jumped a signal, if they want to check something, someone is not wearing a seat belt, if a traveling passenger along the side is not wearing a seat belt, there might be n number of things, or your number plate is not visible nowadays. That has become
Yes.
another thing, that HSRP number plates have
Yes.
come up, so now that is becoming a mandate. So all these things will
So can
have,
any of these people remove the key of
no.
your motorcycle?
So the police officer is not empowered to remove the key from any of the vehicle, whereas the police officer can always ask for documents. As I have already said, the documents can be asked, and the reason, even the common public has a right to ask the constable or any other RTO officer or a police officer to ask that why is he stopped,
Okay.
because there is no reason why a police officer would peep into your car and pull out your key. There doesn't seem be any other reason for doing that.
No, car,
It
or
is,
in our case a motorcycle, where the key is much easily accessible, and the reason that generally a police constable or a warden or a police officer gives is because what if you run away, what if you just speed off with your motorcycle?
no, but that is again the same thing, because nowadays, because of the clicking pictures,
Yes.
the thing which is there, usually even if someone runs away, there is a picture which can be
Right.
immediately clicked and he can be charged for that. And
Right.
for that particular reason, a constable, the police constable, is himself the witness to that particular incident.
Okay.
So that is considered to be legal.
Okay. What designation of a police constable officer can charge you, fine you, stop you, impound your vehicle, or to an extent maybe slap you for any misnomer?
Okay, so, so the slap is out of question because that is not legal. In respect of charging, a police constable
Yes.
and any other superior from that particular rank
Okay.
can charge you for an offense.
Okay.
He should be empowered under the law. That is what is only required.
Okay.
That is it.
And how about the previous topic that we were speaking of, threatening to impound? To what degree of a designation should a police
No, that
officer?
again, it's not that there is a specific officer who is required to do that. Any officer can do that, subject to he is vested with those powers.
Okay.
And if he is vested with those powers, then he can do it by following the due procedure of law.
Okay.
He can't just do it on a random basis, that he can just take away your car and just slide off. That is not permissible.
Okay. So now that we have decently warmed up with the smaller documentation part of it, if we could then address the elephant in the room, what if you meet with an accident? Now, from a motorcyclist's perspective, no matter who the accident is with, whether it's with another vehicle or a pedestrian, more often than not, the motorcyclist has always to lose in terms of life or limb with this accident. So, in such a scenario, what should be the first response of a motorcyclist after an accident?
Okay. So, in respect of the question which you have asked me, I assume that the motorcyclist is the victim. So, there are a number of things which will follow after an accident. The first thing, which is the most important, is to save anyone's life. So,
Okay.
that is the benchmark where you have to first stand for. So, if you meet with an accident, if a motorcyclist meets with an accident with a car, which is a four-wheeler automobile, if that happens, first of all, the first thing which you have to do is to call an ambulance if the slide is too heavy. So that is the first thing. And the second thing which is required to be that you have to report this particular incident to the police.
Okay.
There are two basic things which are immediately required to be done without having any delay to do that.
Okay.
You have to do those things. It's at times what happens is people just panic. So, in respect of that, you'll have to just first calm down. Take your motor vehicle, you're on a bike or in the car, you have to just take it on the side. Just make sure that the traffic is eased out, and immediately first call an ambulance or a police vehicle, whatever is required at that particular point of time. That is the basic thing which is.
in a case where you have met with an accident, whether with another vehicle or with a pedestrian, the first thing that will happen in our country is a crowd will gather around. And at that point, everybody wants to give a verdict that who
Right.
was wrong and who was right. And that verdict is based on a lot of factors, but not on law. So at that point, how are you supposed to handle the situation?
Okay. So in respect of an accident, if so, I'll take a hypothetical example: a car just having a accident met with a pedestrian.
Okay.
So the most important thing is that the person who has been hit, if he's fallen down, first of all, the responsibility of the person who is driving the vehicle is to actually first look at that particular person and give him the medical aid, or the first aid, what we say, the medical aid at the earliest possible. That is what it is.
Okay.
In fact, under the law, a person who does that is in fact rather protected by the law.
Okay.
That particular thing would not be held against him, is what the law says.
Okay.
So in respect, if a person is been hit and that person has fallen down and has been bleeding, the driver puts him in his own car and takes him to the hospital. That is a noble cause which is also recognized by the law,
Okay.
and that helps that particular person to actually save himself,
Okay.
which shows that it was not his intent
Okay.
to do anything on a purpose.
Okay.
Which has happened, has unfortunately happened, and that is the reason we call it as an accident. The second thing which is most importantly required is, when a person is been meets with an accident, the first thing which is required, that as you said, that there is a mob which is
Right.
there around the car. It's always better that you put yourself in a position where you make an informed decision of calling the police immediately, and in order to safeguard yourself, start documenting all these things.
Okay.
So documenting, I mean by documenting is like, start recording.
Okay.
Start taking pictures of your vehicle,
Okay.
the vehicle which has met with an accident, say it's a motorbike or a person who is there. Start taking pictures of that. Look at the level of injury which has happened. Look at the damage which the car has faced. All these documents would be helpful, and in respect of all these things, this particular documentation will help you in the future if there is any charge which has been placed against you by the police or by the person who calls himself or treats himself to be a victim in that
Okay.
particular matter. So these documentations are very much important, and for which it is required. In respect of mob which is required to be controlled, as soon as the police comes, the mob is usually taken care of.
Yes.
And that is the most important thing, because the mob is at that point of time in a very different temperament. So in order to save yourself, it's always better to stay calm, stay silent, rather than making any other argument. It's always better that you stay calm, let the authorities come on the spot and take necessary steps which are required to be taken.
Okay. And at that point, if you are a motorcyclist, exactly the same thing follow.
Yes, absolutely. It's saving the life of a victim or the person who has met with an accident. It may be on the person who has fallen down as a pedestrian, or a person who has fallen down from a motorcycle.
So
It
what
can be
if
both sides.
so what if at that point you are the victim, you are the motorcyclist, and you've been hit by another vehicle? Either that vehicle is trying to escape or is blaming you for the situation. Not, I mean, this law you've just enlightened us that the first thing is you have to see, tender to the medical condition of the person who is
Yes.
who's in need. What if you are the victim and the person is not trying to understand that, he is just throwing allegations at you?
Right. So this is a usual tendency amongst the public who meets with an accident, even if he is standing on the wrong side, starts
Correct.
making accusations, allegations against
Correct.
you. For that matter, what is required is that once you make an informed decision of calling the police authority,
Yes.
once you call the police authority, immediately make sure that you file a complaint against that particular person.
Okay.
Make sure that the police takes down your complaints,
Okay.
registers your complaint, lodges
Okay.
it at a concerned police station,
Okay.
and you make sure that you sign that particular document. So
Okay.
that becomes a legal document which can be used by you in future.
Okay.
At times it happens that the police is not willing to take the first information report, what we call
Right.
as the FIR.
FIR.
they are not willing to take that. But it's always better that you point it out that these things have happened and I want to register an FIR. If not, make sure that you make a you take a page, write down that particular facts of that how things have happened, and make an official complaint saying that please accept this particular complaint. So they are legally bound to actually accept that particular complaint and act on that particular complaint,
Okay.
which also saves you from any baseless or some fraudulent allegations which the other side is trying to make just to save themselves.
Okay.
That is also an important aspect.
Okay. So, okay, let's assume there's been some accident on the road. You have taken the injured to the hospital. You've given him the required first aid. The person is very thankful and says that, okay, no harm, no foul. We all go home. But as an afterthought, maybe somebody tells him that, boss, you let him go scot free for no rhyme or reason. You could have got something out of the person, and then the person goes and files a police complaint. So, in such a situation, how should you safeguard yourself?
So, as I've already said, that it's always better to document things.
Right.
So, once you make a document ready, it always helps you as it is available with you till the very end.
Right.
So, in respect of an accident, if you ask me, if you take a person to a hospital, the so called victim, and you treat him and everything goes very well, and that particular person then backstraps. So, if that happens, then it's always better that when the accident happens, you report it. If you think that the person is going to make some accusations against you, it's always better that you make an informed decision to the authorities that this has happened at this particular place and this is what has happened. The particular person was suddenly he came in front of you, he came from the wrong side, or whatever the facts of the case are, and make sure that at least the authorities register this particular even as a non-cognizable complaint. That is fine, but it is necessary that it is to be documented.
Okay. Interesting. So, at that point, do you need to submit any evidence, or that's not required? You just go and give an application, or as you said, you go and give a complaint. That's enough.
I'll answer it in a little different
Okay.
way. So the earlier question, I'll answer it in a different. So as you said that if you take the victim to the hospital and if that particular person makes some accusations against you, as an afterthought, so it's always better that you make a informed decision to the authorities, and those documents are required by that authority to place it before the victim to take his consent that yes, we do not have any complaint against this particular person. Because what happens is when there is an accident which takes place and you have informed the authorities come to the concerned hospital and takes the statement of the victim that what happened and all that stuff. If that particular at that particular time, if the victim doesn't make any accusations against you, then the police records that yes, there is no complaint which is there, but that requires to be documented. If the police doesn't document it, it is always better that you document it, take the signature of the victim and present it before the concerned authorities, or keep it with you, but it requires a signature, it requires a due attestation from someone, say from a doctor who is in charge of that particular ward. You can take attestation saying that this particular person has signed in my presence. That is required, and if that documentation is there with you, there are less chances that the person would make some accusation against you in the future.
But Chaitanya, these things happen generally in good faith that, okay, somebody has got injured and you have taken him to the hospital, the bugger says, okay, or his family comes in and that point says that, okay, thank you for doing this, you've been helpful. So at that time, it's all in good faith. So nobody actually thinks of, calling the police, even though the person is saying that, okay, all good.
Right. So actually that is the reason we are sitting today and actually discussing over these things. So it's my personal opinion that it's always required to be documented for a reason, because you never know that what's coming tomorrow. It's always better that you in a humble way say that please, this we are doing it just for a documentation purpose, and it is required for you to actually make sure that you don't have any grievance against me, just write it down on a piece of paper. That is what is the only thing which is required.
Okay.
So, because tomorrow if something goes wrong, that particular document comes to your aid.
Right.
And most of the people would just shake hands and then just walk off, but that is not the right way to approach to a particular incident. Sometimes it happens that an injury at a particular stage looks very minimal,
Superficial.
yeah,
Yes.
but subsequently something escalates and then the doctor says no, this injury has now like it has now transformed into something which is something grave. Then the particular victim says that no, I can't let the person who has done this to me go scot free.
Okay.
At that point of time, these all documentations might come to your aid.
Okay.
I would not say that you would go scot free, but at that point of time you will have some documentation to your aid to defend yourself where you are not on the wrong side.
Okay. So this was with another pedestrian. I'll take that again. तेरा गाड़ी जा रहा था. So these cases that we discussed was where somebody was hurt. In case of two vehicles colliding and the damages being only to the vehicles, whether on two wheels or four, at that point in time, what does the law say?
So in respect of when there are there are times when two cars collide to each other. It's the law is
Two
like
cars, two motorcycles. I mean, and nobody
Yes.
has got hurt.
Absolutely. So in respect of that, there is no one is hurt. So therefore, it doesn't attract any penal provisions or the charges to that particular. But when it's there, then it's a monetary loss to either of the persons or to both of them. It depends on how the accident is. But then the insurance company plays a vital role in respect of all these things. So then there is a claim which which is required to be made to the authorities. The claim might also require that you need to file an FIR. That is also nowadays has become that the insurance companies are demanding that whether you have registered an FIR for that aspect, that this particular incident whether was reported to some authority.
Okay.
Then they will check all those documents which are required in that insurance process.
Okay.
And then that is what will follow. But there would not be any penal provisions which would be charged against any of the parties.
So many a times when you have these kind of a local scuffle, when during a peak traffic hour or something like that, people who do not know the law start demanding money from you. So at that point, what should be your stand?
In respect of car to car.
Yeah, in vehicle to vehicle, where there is no human.
So people usually say that you have to pay me X amount or else then I'll report it to the police station.
Correct.
But reporting to the police station also will be only in respect of that you might have been driving in a very rash manner or a negligent manner where actually you were at a very heavy speed, or at that point of time some things happens, but that doesn't make you criminally liable for all these aspects. Yes, monetarily your insurance will of course be there. Then there are parts to that whether how your insurance is also. So that is also a part which is to be looked into.
So let's assume if the person is a local or there are more number of people in his vehicle, then it becomes sort of gundagardi. At that point, what is your right and what is it that you can do?
So this is a very practical thing, or the things which I usually keep in mind is that when these things happen, it's always better that you get into some public place. Say for example petrol pumps, where there are usually CCTV cameras which are installed. At some public place you are much safer. You can start recording. So there are now dash cams which are there. You have your own personal device where you can start recording things. It's always better not to retaliate to such a mob, because then it comes to your own safety also. You are alone or you are with your family, you want to safeguard all those things. At that point of time, it's always better not to enter into an argument. It's always better that you stay calm, make sure that you are humble to make them understand that it's not your fault, and keep a discreet recording happening so that
Okay.
it gets documented.
Okay.
And if there is some unfortunate assault or something, you always then have a remedy to file a criminal complaint against the persons who are involved.
Okay.
And that particular documentation is also admissible now under the Evidence Act, because now the digital evidence is also taken into consideration by the courts. So that is a thing which you can always adopt.
Could you please shed some more light on the digital evidence? I have heard a couple of times B16 or B60 from you. So could you please give
Yeah.
some
So
elaboration on that?
it's so digital form, it's like in all digital forms you can record things. So
Yes.
it might be an email, it might be, say you write an email to a concerned police station reporting an offense. You can record things on the road. So for example, if it's a dash cam, it automatically records whatever happens on the road. If there is a heated argument between a mob and a individual, that can also be recorded, and that particular footage can be presented in the court, which will be treated as a digital evidence, and on that basis the courts can take it. There is a procedure which is required to be adopted to prove that particular thing in the court of law, and that is taken care by the Indian Evidence Act. So that is one aspect which is there, which needs a certification from a person who is doing that, and that is a process where you can adopt and place your defense or your case before the court, which would certainly help you in that aspect.
Okay. So what is the procedure for this verification of the digital document or file?
So once you present that particular digital evidence before the court, there is a certificate. The certification is required from the person who is actually making that particular thing, and that once that certification is there, it can be made admissible
Okay.
in the court. So that certification is required. That is a process which is there under the law. It would differ from case to case that what is the digital evidence, and on that basis that particular certification is made by the author of who presents that particular, who has created that particular digital evidence. From that particular person, that that certification is required. That is
Okay.
what the thing is.
Okay. Okay. Just like in an automobile, you have dash cameras. There are a considerable amount of riders who wear their action camera on their helmet or is mounted on a motorcycle. A, is it legal? B, if stopped over by a cop or during an accident, can it be rolling while speaking to a cop or while speaking to a mob?
Yes, so dash cams are permissible. Now, the RTO has come out with some notification saying that this is in respect of safety, it's permissible. Yes, you can also make that recording, but it has to be an informed. I usually say that it should be an informed decision. It should be with the consent of another person saying that yes, I am recording this particular aspect, and it should be in a very humble way to make sure that both the sides are safe. It's
Okay.
not only about that you are creating something for your own self or
Okay.
for your own safety, it's for the safety for the other side also, so that the other side also doesn't make any accusations or allegations against you that you have used some words which were not required to be used, or you have assaulted it. It can be any way.
Okay.
So it's permissible, but I usually prefer that it should be an informed decision, that the person, I am recording a particular aspect, and that particular thing should be very clear to the, even to a police officer if you're talking to, it should be an informed decision.
So here my question was that can I officially mount a action camera on a motorcycle or on my helmet?
Yes. So action camera is permissible on a helmet. There are certifications for that, which I believe that certifications, if are complied with, you can always have an action camera on your helmet.
So in cars like you have dash cams, there are quite a few riders who put action cameras on their motorcycles. It is not primarily a aid to record safety, but it is also a aid to record the ride wherever the person is going as a memorabilia. But that also kind of records untoward situations. So in this scenario, is an action camera on a motorcycle legally allowed or not allowed?
So, considering there are no restrictions for use of action cameras, at least in Maharashtra,
Okay.
there are some places where there are safety concerns, say like
Okay.
military areas, where the recording of a particular place is not permissible for safety reasons.
Okay.
that particular places it is restricted, but
Okay.
other than that, in Maharashtra there is no law which prohibits
Okay.
use of action cameras. So
Okay.
it's always permissible for a person to record
Okay.
in an action camera, and if it is done for your safety purpose, then it's certainly permissible.
Absolutely lovely. Now you see the absolute deteriorating condition of the traffic in a metropolitan city like Mumbai. It has only become worse with these electric two-wheelers coming in, which do not require registration. Now, since they do not require registration, I'm sure they do not have an insurance as well. So, in such cases, what are the laws that are applicable to them? And if there is some kind of an incident involving this kind of a vehicle, what are the implications on it?
Okay, so electric vehicles, some of them require registration, some of
Correct.
them don't. So to the best of my knowledge, it's depends on the speed which they have
So,
been
under
given.
35 kilometers an hour, you don't need a.
They don't need registrations,
Correct.
but that is also considered to be a two wheeler
Okay.
in respect of a motor vehicle. So
Okay.
in respect of that, it's always going to be the person who is driving a four wheeler or a wheeler to take care of the person who is riding that particular. So if something, hypothetically, suppose something goes wrong and a person hits that particular person, then it is also a liability of that particular person to offer him first aid,
Correct.
medical aid, and the same process follows which is required.
No, here I was saying the how is that person covering his liability since he does not have any insurance? How he is covering a third party liability?
So third party liability is not covered by him, but rather covered in an insurance policy of a person who is driving the vehicle.
Okay.
So third party policy is not. So for example, if we take any of the service providers who are giving the food delivery apps and
Okay.
all, so that particular food delivery service providers are actually insuring these particular persons, saying that they have been traveling extensively. So for that particular, they have been insured by the company itself.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that is what the company is, and other than that, it is if they meet with an accident because of some other person's dash, then it becomes the responsibility of that particular person who is driving a two wheeler or a four wheeler.
Why is there so much of lawlessness in that category where there's rampant going braking signals or going on the wrong way? Why is the authorities not clamping down on this menace?
So in respect of where the registration is not required, so
Correct.
therefore the signal parts of it is not required. As you know
Okay.
that if there is no registration required
Okay.
for example, if it's a cycle,
Okay.
so the registration is not required, so the signal is not the mandate for that
Okay.
particular. Every person should understand, because of this heavy traffic and all, everyone should take care
Okay.
while traveling for all these things. So but the law is not there as of now, and I'm
Okay.
sure there will be some improvement to that effect,
Okay.
because there have been extensively they have been now promoting food delivery apps and everything.
Correct.
So there will be some laws at some point of time, but as of now, because of there is no registration part of it,
Okay.
that is the reason there is no law as such which
So
would.
they are not even liable for that law. They can't be held accountable for breaking a signal or going
Yes,
in the
certainly
wrong
if there
side
is
of
no
a.
registration, then they will not be charged, because if there is no registration, how can you actually identify that particular person and how can he
Okay.
be charged? That is what.
Okay.
So the food delivery guy or the persons who are delivering the essentials in 10 minutes, they do not have a registration because that is not mandatory for their electric bikes. So therefore there are no traffic rules which can be made applicable to them. So once there is no registration, no traffic rules, so they are more like a pawala who used to deliver, get pav for us every morning. They are as good as they are. So the liability in respect of those particular vehicles are usually they are insured by their companies, uh, and that is the only thing which secures them. That is the
Okay.
only thing.
So as I understand, if the vehicle does not exceed 35 kilometers an hour of maximum speed limit, it need not be registered. if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken.
Correct. So that is the RTO limit which they have set.
Okay. So it is as good as a cycle on the road.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there a law governing hit and run in India?
Yes. Under the Motor Vehicles Act, there is a specific section which deals with that.
Okay.
And it is a aggravated offense, I would say, that a hit and run case is looked much as a deeper offense than what a particular person usually meets with an accident is. So as I said earlier, that you have to provide that medical aid is one of the basic requirement under the law, which safeguards you from having any charge
Okay.
which is of a more
Serious nature.
aggravated version. So that is what is it is. Hit and runs cases are much in a aggravated position and have, and the courts also are looking into all those offenses with great seriousness,
Okay.
and the punishment for that particular offense is also severe than the regular charges which are there under the law.
Most of the cases that you see relevant to a motor vehicle are rash and negligent driving. Why is this the most used section, and are there any other sections that also go to court?
So rash and negligent driving is the base section which is there. Once a motor vehicle uh, gets into an accident, that is the first thing which every person would allege against that other person, is that he was driving in a rash and negligent manner.
Okay.
That is the first. And then there are, if there are injuries, then the sections or the provisions of the law would change accordingly. If someone is having some minor hurt, then
Okay.
it would be something different. If
Okay.
someone is having a fracture,
Okay.
then it is something different. And if someone unfortunately passes away, then there is another provision for that.
Okay.
So there are different aspects to that, but the base thing is that the rash and negligent driving would be one of the charge which will be there against a person.
Okay. So rash and negligent driving. Let's assume there is no accident that has happened. Can rash and negligent driving still be enforced on a person?
So to answer your question, rash and negligent driving doesn't always need to be an accident which is required to be taken place. Recently, I have just read it in the a
Newspaper.
week back in the newspaper. Uh, a person was sitting or lying on the bonnet of a car, and a person
Yes.
was driving the car. He was that got captured in a CCTV camera or someone recorded it. I'm not very
Yes.
sure, but that was there all over social media, and the concerned police station immediately took cognizance of that particular offense, and that particular driver along with that particular person was charged
Okay.
for rash and negligent driving.
Okay. Okay.
So every time it's not necessary that you have to meet with an accident to say that you have been rash and negligent.
Okay.
So persons having or getting into stunts or something of that sort, that is also considered to be a rash and negligent driving.
So the day things go wrong and you are presented in front of a police officer in the police station for whatever reason it may be, what are your rights? What are you supposed? What is it that you can say, not say, and at what point should you be calling a lawyer?
You are at a police station. Let's take an example that you are already at a police station. So it's always advisable to have a helping hand, and the best friend for that is a lawyer who would come and talk on your behalf. Because what happens is, after an accident or after any particular incident, you land at the police station, you are all panicky, you are not in your proper state of mind, you are quite worried about things because it's not a everyday thing for you. So it's
Right.
always better to have a lawyer along. That's a right under the constitution of India, and that helps a lot. It helps from a emotional point of view. It helps from actually having someone who knows about the rules, about the laws, helps you to actually get things done the way you want it. It's always advisable that you need not get into an argument with a police officer or with any official for that matter, and it's always better that you keep your calm, speak as much less as possible, because sometimes it's like in that particular state of mind you tend to say a lot of things and which can be held against you, not in a very strictly legal manner, but against you to pressurize you from by the official who are there in front of you at that point of time. A statement made before a police officer, as most of you all know, that it's not admissible in the court of law. But to be on a very safer side, it's always better that you speak less, and it's always better to have a friend, a lawyer who is next to you, who knows that what is required to be said and what is not required to be said at that particular instant.
Again, at what point do you call your lawyer? If you've been summoned to the police station, or if the policeman has said that we may have to arrest you, or we may have to produce you in a court, what is this sequence of events?
So there is no thumb rule for that. So it's like if you feel very unsecure going to a police station on a basis of summons, you can take your lawyer along. If you think that at any stage that no, now it's not within my capacity to actually deal with this aspect, you can call your lawyer. There is no straightforward jacket formula that when you want to call your lawyer, you can call your lawyer to the police station or to any other place at your convenience. It's your right under the law. So there is no specific this, it differs from person to person, and it's always better to have a lawyer along with you at the inception of the particular case, because then he would be in a better position to actually advise you from the start till the end. It's always better that way.
Okay. So let's assume there is some sort of a incident that has happened in the road, and you go to a police station and you ask the police to register a case or an FIR in this instance. But the police is reluctant in registering the FIR. What is the procedure after that?
So, in respect, if there is an accident which has taken place and you immediately take diligent steps to approach the police station, and the police officer is not convinced that the FIR cannot be registered on the given set of facts, and if you still feel that you have been deprived of a opportunity, then it is always open for you to actually go and approach their superior. So if you approach a police station and the police station doesn't do it, you can always go to the ACP, who is the assistant commissioner of police, or the DCP, who is the deputy commissioner of police, and report these particular instances. Even if that doesn't help, then there is a provision under the law where you can directly go to the court. After informing these authorities, you can go to the court and make a formal complaint in the court saying that kindly direct the police to register an FIR against my complaint. And after hearing you, if the court finds that yes, there is material and there are the facts which you have narrated before the court are sufficient, then the court has powers to direct the police to register an FIR against the person against whom you have made a complaint. So that is what the procedure is.
Okay. So once this case is registered, that case is against the person who's registering the case versus uh, the other person, or is it state versus the other person?
So if the court directs the police to register a case against a particular person, then it will be a state versus the person the case will be, wherein you will be treated as the first informant who has given the FIR.
Okay.
So you will be treated as the original complainant in that matter. If the police, if the court doesn't direct the police to register an offense and says that no, there are no sufficient grounds which you have made out to for the court to exercise its discretion, saying that register an offense against a particular person, then you are given an opportunity by the court to present all the evidence which you have against the particular person against whom you have made a complaint. If on the basis of that particular evidence, if the court comes to a conclusion, yes, there is a case which can be made out, then the court can issue a summons against that particular person and call him to the court to answer the charge against him. That in that scenario, then the case will be an individual person against an individual person.
So is it okay to say that it's a state versus an individual when an FIR is lodged, and it's individual versus individual when only an NC is lodged?
No. So it's when an FIR has been lodged on the complaint which has been given, then it will be a state versus a particular
Yeah.
person. But when there is a court summons on a complaint of an individual person, when a court issues a summons to a particular person to come and answer a charge, then that point of time the case will be an A versus B. So
Okay.
then it will not be against the state versus the particular person.
Okay. So what would be a typical example of a state versus individual or an individual versus individual?
So, example is a accident which has happened. A person has been a FIR has been registered against a particular person. Then in that case, it becomes a state versus a person. In the second scenario, it's like a person goes to the police station. The police station doesn't register an FIR. He goes to the court. Even the court doesn't direct the police. It says that you present evidence. On the basis of that evidence, the court issues summons to the person. Then it becomes a case A versus B.
So generally, while riding interstate, when you are stopped by the local police of another state, they ask your RC, and then the question is raised if the vehicle is not registered on your name. Maybe it's a family member's name, or maybe it's your company vehicle. So, what is the law? Can I drive a vehicle registered on somebody else's name?
You can ride a vehicle which is registered in someone else's name. It's always better that you have an authorization letter from that particular person saying
Okay.
that I am authorizing X person to
Okay.
drive this particular vehicle. And it's always better to have that particular document because it always helps you in case of emergency, in case when there are claims, insurance claims which are required to be made,
Okay.
or any unfortunate incident if something happens, and that particular letter can be used at a particular hospital or at any other place where you have been given medical aid. That is always advisable to have an authorization letter. It is a document, again, a document which will be for your own safety.
Okay. But it is allowed.
It is allowed.
Okay. Same with if it's a company vehicle, my identity card of the said company, I can produce and saying that that is how I'm driving the vehicle.
Yes, if it's a private vehicle and
Yes.
you are authorized to drive that particular vehicle, you are allowed to. If it's a commercial vehicle and if you don't have a permit, then it's
Perfect.
certainly not allowed.
As far as there's always a big debate and hue and cry happening on modifications. Now, what kind of modifications are allowed on a motor vehicle? What kind of modifications are not allowed? I can understand that a modified silencer would be one extreme end of the situation, but what about a wrap or a color?
So, if those particular modifications are as per the RTO permit, then those modifications are allowed. Those
Okay.
modifications are also required to be made in the RC,
Okay.
and if those are being made, then it is those modifications are allowed.
Okay.
Other than that, all other modifications are impermissible. For example, so the tinted glasses which we see
Right.
nowadays, it's permissible for VIPs. There is a separate norm. For general public, it's a separate norm. So there are different regulations for that, which the state government is periodically reviewing all those things, and that particular aspects will keep on changing
Okay.
as time changes and as per the circumstances which will be there.
What about additional lights?
Additional lights also will be a part of RTO permit list, which gives the particular list where there are additional lights which are allowed to be installed below the headlights, which doesn't obstruct the person who is driving towards you. His visibility is not obstructed. So there are permissible limits which have been set by the RTO. If those things are followed, then it is permissible. Other than that, it's not permissible as per the RTO regulations.
Got it. Is there any specific law, legal tidbit that you would like to give about driving or riding a vehicle in India? your personal experience?
My first personal experience in respect of driving is that please drive safely. Because nowadays we have seen a lot of horrifying accidents which have taken place. The given the current situation of the roads, the infrastructure, there are a lot of things which are required to be taken into consideration when you ride either a motorbike or driving a four wheeler. But all these aspects, it's very important that you have to maintain your own safety, seat belts, all other things. The automobile companies have also now enhanced their security and safety accessories to that effect. Airbags have come in the cars. Initially there were no airbags, then they started installing two. Nowadays they have installed 4, 6. So things are improving. So it's
Right.
not that we are at a standstill. Things are improving, but at the same time everyone has to control themselves in respect of speed. We have to see road conditions, we have to see climatic conditions, and on that basis you have to assess, and then you have to drive it in that.
Could you shed some light on insurance? At what point is an FIR required for an insurance claim? Uh, is a PUC, a valid PUC at the time of an accident, a mandate for registering a insurance claim, or any such information on an insurance claim?
So on the basis of insurance claims, the insure when you go for an insurance claim, the things which they ask is for a driving license, a valid PUC, a valid insurance policy.
Okay.
So these are the mandates which are required,
Okay.
and then they take a brief description on how the accident took place, or what
Okay.
is the norms for what are
Okay.
all things have happened in respect of that. After this, there is a inspection of the car, and all that
Yes.
process follows, and then subsequently they come to a conclusion how to proceed with the claim. FIR at all instances are not material, but it is always better that you report a particular incident at a concerned police station, get it documented. It helps you for your future safety. That is what is required. Insurance companies are not making a mandate that every accident requires a FIR. On the basis of, if there is a small mishap, they might as well accept your contention. If there is a major concern where a third party insurance is required, then certainly they might be requiring an FIR copy for that.
Okay. If I have digital evidence, either through my motorcycle dash cam or through the street traffic camera, that somebody has broken a traffic law because of which an accident occurred, can I claim damages to my vehicle on the other person's third party insurance claim?
Yes. So there is a procedure which is there, and there are provisions to that effect where you can claim these things. If you have evidence, there are certain ways to actually get things done, and for that certainly you will require a lawyer for that, because that will need a lot of documentation purpose. The procedure is required to be followed, the court procedures, court documentations, everything will be required to get fruitful results out of it.
So, Chaitanya, thank you so much for all this brilliant insight and practical understanding of the law. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me over, Vivek.
Thank you. And guys, ride safe. Don't ride faster than your guardian angels can fly. And in case there's any issue on the road, please understand there's human life that has to be taken care first. Tend to somebody who's injured, and a polite word and a nice smile has never hurt anyone. Take care and see you again with a similar topic like this.